bringing you inside the USL Championship and League One.
Segmer's got there. Marquinhos! He's been knocking on the door. He knocks it down.
Diving into all the biggest stories and top headlines.
You are ripping and roaring today.
This is USL All Access.
It's almost impossible to recreate that level of magic.
With Mike Watts and Devon Kerr on SiriusXM FC.
All Access is back. Welcome to 2024 and a new calendar year with all kinds of new reasons for excitement or disappointment for your team in the league. This is USL All Access. You'll hear us every Tuesday night on SiriusXM FC. If you miss any part of the show, we're on the app. If you miss any part of the app, just go ahead to the USL YouTube page and we'll catch you up on that in just a few days' time. With Devon Kerr, as always, do you want to handle your resume? Do I handle your resume?
Michael, I don't pay you to handle my resume. You just do it on your own.
As you can see, this is what this show is about. Devon, longtime analyst, voice of the league.
First-time caller.
The longtime listener and speaker on this show. Also, of course, MLS on Apple, CONCACAF, ESPN's College Cup coverage, ACC Network lead. If there's something going on in this country relating to the beautiful game, Dev is calling it or tangentially related to it. Mike Watts here as well. Going back to 2015, voice of the league. Excited to be back for yet another year, covering not only here on SiriusXM, but games throughout the season, both here on SiriusXM and also on national platforms, one of which has been announced, the other of which will be announced sooner rather than later. Emmett McConnell's at the controls as always. Coming up this week, a look at the format for the league, a check-in on the Open Cup, a check-in with Amanda Vandervort, who's leading the USL Super League, which attained Division I sanctioning, the general meeting of U.S. Soccer Federation in Dallas a couple weeks ago. Take a look at the new coaches around the league, and then we'll dive into each conference the next 2 weeks, get you ready for the start of the season. Begins March the 9th. Dev, what even is this show? How do we try and explain this to folk?
It is the most appropriate way to get you and I as deep as humanly possible involved in the news, statistics, trends, storylines of USL Championship, while also making sure we don't get fired.
All right, Dev, let's try not to get fired with the first topic of the year. We left in December. We had just crowned Phoenix as the champion, Charleston the runner-up. Maybe the best playoff run we'd ever seen with Phoenix rising. We also had a lot of Open Cup drama in the cup sets over these last couple of years. That was a major talking point starting the week of Christmas. Has continued all the way to this week. There was further news that the outlook for the Open Cup was grim. We're talking about a 100-year tournament. Jeff Carlisle reporting late last night, ESPN's U.S. soccer correspondent, that, for the moment, that crisis might be averted. But it won't look like recent editions of the tournament that we've become familiar with. In his reporting, he says it's likely that not every MLS team will play. That would mirror what it was like about a decade ago before we saw everybody come into the tournament, make it a little bit more of a hybrid model of the Open Cup that we got to know then, as opposed to what we've seen broadcasted in recent years. One of the critical points of that reporting was there were plans that call for the Federation to make its largest financial investment ever to ease the cost of travel and assist with promotion, especially for lower division clubs. Dev, you and I had a chance to talk about this a lot off air. I know you and I don't tend to hit trending topics and give hot takes. I think it goes without saying that England without the FA Cup, even if it's not their most prominent trophy, would be a little weird. And same with Pokal in Germany, or you can go right down the list. The fact that there's apparently light at the end of this tunnel and that we'll find a way forward is fantastic. It doesn't necessarily fix the problems that persist around the tournament. That in mind, this tournament needs to happen, and it needs to consistently happen because I think it's the most aspirational thing that we do in this country on a professional level for the game.
Having had
say that the Women's Open Cup is probably a couple of years away, if we're all being honest as well.
Yeah, and to your point real quick about, whether it's the Open Cup or the DFB Pokal, having experience of both of them, there's an emotional tie for me for these two that, competition is one thing, but for the entirety of the country, an opportunity to chase that kind of dream, Open Cup has kind of been lost in lore of sorts because of the advancement of Major League Soccer in a good way. It hasn't exactly been the number one choice competition for those teams. Some of that I understand. I don't agree with it, but I understand it. I can understand why resources are put towards chasing MLS Cup, finding a way to work themselves into a supporter shield or hoisting the trophy at the end of the year, finishing right there atop the conference. I understand that Open Cup is a direct path to what I'm about to allude to, but to get into what are we? CONCACAF Champions Cup.
Yes.
The name drives me nuts. I get all that. It is an easier route. Be very careful the way that I phrase this, to accomplish the idea of gaining one of the spots to come out of a domestic season, as opposed to chasing down and being the team to hoist the title for Open Cup. I get that.
Phil Neville told me it is the fastest route to the international competition that Inter Miami was seeking.
Fastest route.
When they were going through it.
But it's the fastest route, but you have to win the tournament, right? You have to hoist a trophy. You have to continue to navigate deep into your domestic season. Like, this is a tournament. For all intents and purposes, this is a year-long tournament, right? As far as MLS teams are considered, this starts in May, April.
May.
It varies from year to year based
May
on
to September.
Exactly. And it goes to September. So the influx of games and travel, alleviated in whatever manner that may be, is still a pretty decent workload put on these players. So it has changed things. The vision has changed for MLS. I do think the idea that the funds changing in a positive manner is something that needs to stay, for sure. Don't know what the demands are from any of these teams, organizations, leagues, in order to make that happen. I mean, if you went a step further for USL teams, what are the numbers now? It's 50, 25,000 for the, or 50, 25,000
for the top finishing division, in each division.
Joke.
Yeah, it's largely irrelevant.
Yeah, it's a joke. And I would say that there needs to be a path here that is not just, okay, we're going to keep Open Cup survival. It needs to be inclusion so that if it's, look, Houston Dynamo win Open Cup over Inter Miami last year, and they paved their way into CONCACAF Champions Cup. That's awesome. Good for them. Miami had already done it because they won Leagues Cup. That's great. What if in 2022, Sacramento Republic would have won Open Cup? I want to know if CONCACAF, the committee, was going to allow them to take part in CONCACAF Champions Cup. What if a pipe dream of a team in this new edition that we're going to see, and Union Omaha, who make their run in 2022, somehow, I get it, as far-fetched as it may sound, somehow they win the whole damn thing? We're talking very, very, very slim odds here. But there needs to be some sort of format to enable teams to financially be taken care of, for that carrot at the end of the tunnel to not just be the dream of hoisting a trophy, but that path that they followed, Mike, and I'm using that term a couple of times here for a reason, it has merit of not just the title. It gives you the opportunity to continue to garner other things, which is also including money, prize money. Because even for MLS teams to do all this and all the travel, even for an MLS team to go and win the damn thing, it's $300K if I'm not mistaken. Hell, that's one damn charter on a weekend game. What are we talking about here? So we have to find a way to stabilize this tournament for the greater good of the game in this country. Okay, it's going to change this year. But let's put our heads together. There's too many people and too many ideas for this kind of BS to be going on.
Yep. So Jeff Carlisle's reporting. You can go to ESPN.com, take a full look at the breadth of it. It does appear Open Cup will continue. I've got a million thoughts. Not all of them are necessarily the most straightforward, but it's for another time. Point being, I'm glad the tournament continues. It's aspirational, but the investment needs to go on all tiers. And we'll see how that goes. Dev, before we touch on our first break and start paying back this airtime, let's take a look at the season format for the league. For the championship this year, 34 games, 34 weeks. There's a handful of weekday games. Again, 85%, 90% of it is on weekends. 408 games, which means we're at 24 clubs. You might think same 24. Not so fast, my friend. 2 out, 2 in. RGV was a lot closer to survival than you think. They were much closer to being a part of this year than you think. But ultimately, they go. San Diego is out, full well knowing, loyal, that San Diego FC would be right around the corner in Southern California. 2 teams are in. North Carolina, promotion. They were promoted.
Please stop.
What?
Please stop.
They got up. They win League One, and now they're in the championship.
I'm saying it right now. If they show up to week 1 with a star above their crest,
what's wrong with that?
I'm boycotting the game.
Oh, my gosh.
Mike, you don't put a star above your crest if you win a high school state championship and you're playing in the World Cup.
Oh.
Impossible,
off, I would.
But
I would. But, North Carolina goes up, League One champion. Rhode Island, expansion team, they're in. Memphis, Tulsa, welcome to the West, fellas. Sorry. They move over because of the East Coast teams that were added. 34 games, March 9th to October 26th. Kind of looked like an 8. October 26th. Home and away, all 11 in your conference. Then you'll play 6 home, 6 away against the other conference. There you go. You filled out your whole situation. Playoffs start in November, and then it'll finish on CBS. Speaking of CBS, 3 games on CBS, another 22 on CBS Sports Network. A to-be-determined number of games will likely end up on another platform. There'll be games on the Lazo Network. There'll be some games that exist on another platform of which we've become familiar, most likely. All that's going on, so it's not going to be hard to find games at a given time, but you might have to put a little bit more effort into what games you actually want to watch where those are. Dev, I think they got the format right, because how could they you play everyone in your conference home and home, and because of the size of the league, you play every team in the other conference at some point. They more or less got this on the money.
100%. And friendly reminder, it's not just CBS. Can we say big CBS, please?
The CBS Broadcast Network.
That's right. Big CBS.
You and I will be proximate to the game, which is enormous. Looking forward to traveling for those. We'll come chill in your town.
Who finishes higher, Rhode Island or North Carolina?
Rhode Island.
I'll take that. Take us to break.
Okay. All right. When we come back, Amanda Vandervort is the president of the USL Super League, and in August they are going to kick off. They announced D1 sanctioning at the general meeting for U.S. Soccer 2 weeks ago. What does that mean? What does pay look like? What does it come level to? What kind of teams are in? Brooklyn, welcome to Super League. Who knew? All that coming up. Also, Devon, before we go to break, sport your jersey.
No, you'll get it on the other side. You'll get it on the other side.
This is a tease.
I'm
Devon will tell us what he's wearing when we come
comfortable.
back on All Access.
Let's get back to USL All Access on SiriusXM FC with Mike Watts and Devon Kerr.
Welcome back to USL All Access, and again, welcome to this inaugural show of the new season. We finished last year by trying to get a better look at what was, at the time, about 10 months away, the USL Super League. Well, now it's about 6 months away, and we want to get an even further look at all the news that's come out. The president of the Super League is Amanda Vandervort, took over in October of 2021, has built this thing from the studs. The league is going to kick off in August, and now the AGM for U.S. Soccer just about 2 weeks ago. The biggest news that came out of the general meeting, Division I sanctioning for the Super League. And Amanda, of course, has been behind not only finding markets, but teams, and figuring out what all of this is going to look like, and now knows for sure there'll be Division I sanctioning. Amanda, welcome back to the show. Last show, first show. You're always welcome. You know the deal.
It's a delight to be here, Mike. Thank you. And gosh, hearing you with the countdown, I mean, I feel like I'm counting on my fingers at this point till we kick off. It's coming fast and furious. So I'm happy to be here and share the updates.
It's starting to feel that way.
Yeah.
As it pertains to the biggest news of the annual general meeting, Division I sanctioning. Try and explain to the neophytes, myself included, what does Division I sanctioning mean and why start there?
Yeah, so U.S. Soccer has basically, they set the standards for sanctioning, and you can basically, there's Division I, II, III sanctioning standards. And for us with the Super League, what was so important was holding ourselves accountable to the highest standards in American soccer. So what that really means is you're putting together a Division I league. It's the size of your stadium. You've got to have a stadium of 5,000 seats or more. It's the net worth of your ownership group. It's the size, I guess, the makeup of the cities that you play in. You need 75% of them to be over 750,000 people or greater. And a couple, there's a host of other, I guess, standards in the Pro League standards that U.S. Soccer sets that really drive the business success. I think that I would say that's why those Pro League standards are in place, to ensure not only immediate viability, but long-term sustainability of any league at the level that they choose to participate. So for us, that's really what we looked at when we decided that Division I was the way we wanted to go. We said we want to hold ourselves, create the best environment for players and fans that's possible. And we felt that Division I was the way to deliver on that.
Now, I think fans of USL would know over the years, USL, when it first came in, was Division III on the men's side. It went to Division II, where it was on the same tier as the NASL. League One starts. Now MLS Next Pro is also on the Division III tier. It I'm sure led to a lot of questions to you, but having now two, quote, Division I leagues, what does that mean? Because I think a lot of people have a lot of thoughts about what it means, but what it is in practice surely is very different.
Well, I love the way you opened up with the description of how many men's pro leagues and teams there really are. There's over 100 men's professional teams today in the United States, and the opportunity gap that exists for men versus women is staggering. Today, there's 14 women's professional teams in the NWSL. And so in our first year, by adding 8 to that, we're already increasing the number of opportunities for women to go pro. And clearly we have an expansion pipeline into the future. So for us, we've really set a foundation and a plan that looks a lot different than what's already out there too. So we play on the international calendar. So we'll start in August and play through June the following year. That aligns us, with the rest of the countries and leagues around the world, so we can participate on the international transfer market. But also our players, aren't struggling with club versus country choices when it comes to the Women's World Cup or the Olympics in those summer months. So we want to give the players a break in those summer months. That's really important to us. We also are very focused on the player development pathway. Youth to pro within the USL is something that we work really strongly in. So it's not just the Division I league, it's all the infrastructure and investment that's going in, at the levels below that, whether it's the USL Academy or which we've got 40 teams connected to senior markets, or you've got the W League, which is 80 teams this year, as an infrastructure to support the Super League, which sits atop of that entire pyramid.
Right. And naturally, it goes without saying, just in Division I soccer, there's 3 times more women's teams than there are men's teams. In theory, that pipeline substantial as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you just, that's teams, right? But if you just break that down even to players, that means there's 40,000 women playing college soccer today, and there's 300 jobs available in the NWSL. So we're between now and August, we're going to be hiring or have the opportunity for players to get jobs as professional, women, about 160 new jobs at least. For women professional players between now and August, not to mention the front office staff. So I'll add that in. To me, it's one of the things I'm most proud of is more jobs in professional women's soccer.
Yeah. As it pertains to being seen, I'm sure this is one of the most unique things you're dealing with right now. It's one thing to put teams on the field. It's another thing to have all the infrastructure there to get these games off the ground. From a commercial standpoint, from a broadcast standpoint, the reporting out of England right now is that the WSL in the UK is looking for about 20 million pounds. That's 25 million US. The NWSL does a new deal with 4 partners and an over-the-top service. I was around NWSL at the beginning where it was on YouTube and there really wasn't any money there. It's obviously a different landscape now. What's it look like for you in terms of broadcast, sponsorship, partnerships, local, national, and trying to figure out how all that coalesces from the start?
Yeah, it's been an amazing journey actually to speak first with our existing partners that we have that are part of the USL ecosystem and identify where the women's platforms fit in, where the Super League fits in potentially into their futures. And so having those conversations has been really, really powerful. We've had great support across USL partners already. And everything from, huge congratulations and I don't know, all the good vibes to the NWSL and to the WSL as they engage on their media deal, because I think it is demonstration of the interest in the marketplace and how consumers at the end of the day are responding to women's sports. You see these packed stadiums in all women's sports, whether it's volleyball in Nebraska or basketball or women's soccer in particular. It's a rocket ship right now, and we're seeing the interest really growing. So we're on the path on a media deal. We're on the path on some big sponsors and commercial partners to be able to announce in the coming months. But I don't have that information for you right now, Mike. I wish I did. But when I do, I'm coming back on to make sure everybody knows about it.
Sounds good. Invite is always open. You guys have announced plenty of markets, some that are intended to come in the future, and then your 8 that are going to start right now. So it's Washington, D.C., Lexington, Carolina, Tampa Bay, Fort Lauderdale, Dallas, Fort Worth, Spokane. Then you announced Brooklyn as part of the same week of news breaking with the AGM and the sanctioning news. How long was Brooklyn being talked about, and how do I get tickets? Because I only live like an hour away.
Yeah, listen, Brooklyn, we're really excited about Brooklyn. I think what an opportunity to be in that market, be in front of that fan base who's been yearning for soccer. I lived in Brooklyn 15 years. Like, I couldn't be more excited than to have a team right there off the orange and the yellow trains, right straight to Coney Island. So, we're really proud of that club and excited to bring them to life. For you, tickets, I don't know, maybe $1,000 each, Mike. That's all we ask, really.
Awesome.
But I'll buy a train ticket from Long Island.
That's the $1,000.
Yeah. We're come on out. We'll have a big party at the first game. It'll be awesome.
That's Amanda Vandervort, who is president of the Super League and properly holding me up right now over ticketing for this Brooklyn team. The footprint of professional women's teams in this country looks far enough apart, right, where no one's really trampling on each other at this stage, which has sort of always been the case, that there was always room and markets for this to happen. But also you touched, I think, more importantly, to the development of this league on Orange County was out in California on their own for many, many, many years in the championship and sort of held fort out there. And now there's this blossoming Oakland. They had San Diego and LA, but Phoenix. And now you've sort of got this full stratification across the country. Is that sort of your thought process? Because it is very East Coast heavy in terms of the current pipeline you have. But I imagine you have ambition to see this thing stretch coast to coast more substantially in all 3, let's call it regions, Central, West, and here in the East.
Yeah, I mean, I think that and we've already announced, that Oakland and Phoenix and Tucson have intentions to come into the league are committed to the league in the future. And, it's just a matter of getting everything lined up properly for them. And then, certainly we would love to have, Central. There's not a lot of pro women's soccer in the center of the country, and as a University of Wyoming graduate, I know that those high plains of the Rocky Mountains through the wheat fields of Iowa, listen, people love their soccer just as much there as they do in Brooklyn, New York. And I don't think that the size of the city that you call home dictates your fandom. So for us, it's about, or the location of your city. So it really is about, for us, delivering on that promise of bringing professional women's soccer closer to home, and where that is from a geographic footprint means we're open to those conversations, and we want the Super League to provide that experience for women and the men who love them across this country.
Absolutely. I'm sure you've been asked this one too many times. You start to build rosters now. You've got coaches in place for the majority of the franchises. They'll start year one. You've got infrastructure growing across all 8 teams, and then you put a team on the field. I imagine there's an element of the international calendar dictating that the summer is going to provide that impetus to bring a lot of players in. What's that look like right now? And then in terms of salary structure and how you go about it, salary caps, and in this country, it's become really common. Caps, allocation money, international spots getting swapped around. Like, how does the competition format go for this? And then in terms of pay structure, what's competitive mean to you in terms of how that's going to look year one?
Yeah, it's a great question, and especially the competition structure is something we're going to announce in the future. And I think we're going to hold on that one. So that, again, I just keep trying to find excuses to come back on the show, Mike.
Free tickets and you're in.
Yeah. Well, that's, now we're talking.
Yep.
In terms of the players themselves, I mean, it's a fun project and process right now. We've been really vocal that we're not going to have a draft. So, when you look at our player pool, really, they're not under a league contract, right? So the league doesn't identify or mandate where your rights live, which is the case in most, if not all, other American sports leagues. Instead, with us, and this is consistent with our men's side on the USL and consistent really with football and soccer around the world, the players, own the rights. It's a player's right to negotiate with the club that they want to, and they ultimately are free agents until they choose to sign a contract, or if they're coming off of a contract. So, that adds a unique element right now at this time of the year, trying to build rosters as we lead up to August. Yeah, listen, our clubs are out there talking to players who are out of contract, international players. A lot of Americans play in Europe or South America, and they want to come home. Yeah. And I think we're going to be a great platform for those players. Those that are coming out of college who had amazing collegiate careers, who want to either, there's a city that they would want to play in, or a club that fits their values and vision that they want to be a part of. It's an interesting time right now. It's super fun to see. I think every one of our teams has a different kind of strategy and approach, and we think that's a real asset for us as a league. Some might be focused on developing youth talent. Some are bringing in all pros that have been in the pro game before. Some are really focused on U20 internationals, right? I mean, there's run the gamut, but I think that's super cool. And that's what's going to kind of make the Super League so unique and diverse, and a really fun, exciting place, not only to play, but to watch.
Yeah. And for one, I've covered ACC to an extent, but SEC and Big East for so long. There are so many players that I'd pay to watch that don't end up finding their way in this country now, that will, I imagine, potentially have a chance to be among that initial 160 or as it grows. But when we talk about the international calendar and with it the international windows, we've seen on the men's side with USL, Kobe Henry, Josh Winder, Karadi Oshandina, some really talented young players get significant transfer fees to different leagues where they could have a different experience, and that's what they want to do. As it pertains to building a youth pipeline here, I have to imagine clubs are seeing the pretty exorbitant by historic standards, not exorbitant in terms of the grand scheme of where this is going. Transfer fees that are starting to get thrown around for players. I imagine that's not insignificant in trying to develop players moving forward in this league as well, right?
I mean, so FIFA started tracking women in the transfer system in 2018 for the first time.
That's it?
That's it. That's the first time that they actually started tracking the players. And that even the visibility, like you've got to measure things before you know where you're at. Right. So the even just starting to track them and publish them has led to an understanding of where we are in the transfer market on women. We didn't know before that. And a lot of players were moving for $0. It still happens. I mean, Americans who go abroad right now, they just kind of call up a friend or a coach and they, go play someplace in Europe that has a spare spot on the team, and some of the challenges with that are what's the condition they're playing in, the environment that they're in, is it developing them to be professionals? So for us to be able to retain a lot of the top American talent or bring players back and make sure that they are in professional training environments day in and day out is something, we think a lot about. But the transfer market is certainly something that's been on my mind since I've started paying quite close attention. And you see every year in FIFA's report the increase in value of transfer fees. And we've just seen, Bay FC sign the highest transfer fee ever. We saw Chelsea sign a Colombian player just recently, and other, clubs around the world are paying more in transfer fees than they have ever before. What I will say I would expect or hope to change in the future too is training compensation. So that doesn't exist on the women's side today. That clubs who invest in developing talent, youth talent that go on to be professionals, aren't compensated today in the women's game. But we believe that in the future they will be. And so investing in talent at a young level and helping them mature into be professionals, not only for the transfer fee that comes with, that player developing into a pro, but also the investment that we at the USL are committed, like I talked about earlier, committed to making at the youth and pre-professional levels to help them get there. So, I think what you're tipping on here that I'm really I'm very focused on this is the growth and development of the global game. And the global soccer economy as it relates to women's soccer. It's not, when we talk about revenue in the women's game, it is, we talked earlier about the marketing and the media and the commercial interest. And yes, in the United States, that's really, really strong. You tipped your hat to England and how strong it is there too. But the player marketplace is also evolving. And I think that's an important one to understand that we're, we're thinking about in the right way by the players, and as much as the right way by the clubs, that we build this thing collectively and in a way that is immediately viable and long-term sustainable. But knowing and understanding how that marketplace works, I think is something that we, my owners and myself, talk about all the time.
Yeah. One of the most illuminary figures in our field right now, Amanda Vandervort, joining us, president of the Super League, set to launch in August. Let's close with this. So here we are, middle of February. Today is, by all technical terms, February 20th. Let's go with that. Amanda, what's on your plate this week? Because I feel like I've gotten this little snapshot every time we've spoken over the last 2 years. Like, what's on your plate now?
Oh, hang on. Lisa keeps my calendar on the wall there.
The glasses are on. Here we go.
Oh my God, we're getting serious. Right now it's still about building the foundations. We just had a board meeting yesterday, board of governors yesterday. We're getting our coaches and sporting directors together to talk about how they're building their clubs. We're working on the scheduling and building out the calendar for the season. So, we can get all these clubs ready to get their season tickets rolling and let fans know what these clubs are all about. I mean, I've talked about being, talking to players and building rosters, commercial and media conversations. Listen, I mean, if I went through my calendar in 1 week, Mike, we'd be exhausted just talking about it. But that's, high level, that's where we're at as a league, and every day is one step closer to launch, and we don't have a minute to waste.
Amanda, I won't let you waste another minute with me then. You're goated. I think you're the only one with the gold card that's allowed to come on as you see fit. So appreciative as always.
Thanks, Mike. This is great. It is always a delight and a pleasure, and I'm so thankful for the work you do, and thank you for taking the time to talk women's soccer.
Amanda Vandervort, Super League president, set to launch in August. You miss any part of the interview, go ahead and take a look on the YouTube page or the SiriusXM app. Devon and I take a look at the new head coaches around the league, what that means for your team when we come back.
Welcome back to USL All Access on SiriusXM FC with Mike Watts and Devon Kerr.
Welcome back to USL All Access. Devon is back from walking the cat. Also, he's prepared to take off that sweater and unveil a new jersey. Oh, it's the same jersey. It's the same jersey I'm wearing. Meow. Wow.
Damn cat.
The cat.
It's amazing. You take the cat out for a walk. Friendly reminder that he's still alive, by the way. And we have this. I'll tell you what, man. Rhode Island. Mike thinks you're going to finish higher than North Carolina. I'm going to take that as a house bet. That's house money. That's easy. But you guys are doing everything right. This thing is comfortable. It's pretty. Our pets' heads aren't falling off. Look at the back. Respect the front. Nice fit. Comfortable. Perfect when you tuck in. It doesn't give you too much of the bumble. I like this. I like it. For
Congrats, Rhode Island. You have
Capelli.
A slick kit.
Do you remember when I said nobody wants to go to Capelli?
Well, I mean, now
you do. Now you do.
All right, Dev, real quick, let's chat through some of the new coaches or old coaches in new places around the league. Give a quick thought. Rhode Island, Cano Smith, inaugural coach. He left Birmingham midway through last year. There's a lot of competition for this job, which means big shoes to fill.
Yeah, the idea and the names, by the way, behind the scenes guys that were in the running for one of these positions at Rhode Island was pretty impressive. Cano Smith has been in the forefront of a lot of opportunities, not just a head coaching position, but organizations trying to get him on their staffs. I know Phoenix Rising was after him hardcore in the fall of 2022 when they were making the move with Juan Guerra and Rick Shantz and all that was going on. And look where that ended up. He's very smart, great footballing ideas, an incredible person, and hit the ground running. Knew exactly the vision that they wanted to go and chase. Seems like they have a real good idea of what they want to do. And so far, so good. But again, nobody's stepped foot on the field to play yet, but I wish them all the best. That looks like a really good hire.
A couple other guys that have experience around the league taking over new roles. Colorado Springs, they made it simple. Stephen Hogan always wanted to be the sporting director, so he is. James Chambers always wanted to be a coach. Chambo is the head coach. There was a plan in place for this all along.
Yeah, it had already gone that direction. If you were around the organization enough, with the departure of Brendan Burke, who really, he had both of those roles. Steve Hogan had started to gain all of those relationships at the level that Brendan Burke has. It's not that they weren't there, but Brendan Burke had been around the game for just a couple of years longer. And even though they both had ties to the Philadelphia Union, Brendan being the main guy, Hoagie was kind of always chasing the tails of Brendan Burke. When Brendan's departure, Hoagie grasped that full opportunity. And now he's got all those relationships. And you and I witnessed it firsthand last year. I mean, we get to talk to him on a regular basis, but being out there for the summer showcase, watching him work, not on the sidelines, but behind the scenes, loaning players, buying, selling, all that kind of stuff, that seems to me like a perfect fit. And Chambo, I don't know if there was a former player that was ever made more perfect for the sideline than James Chambers.
Speaking of perfect for the sideline, Hamid Namazi is out in Hartford. Brendan Burke, let the man cook. He's the czar for Hartford Athletic. Had 18 points last year. Charleston had 25 before they got to 59, went to the final last year. 4 wins for Hartford last year. Does Hartford get to 53 this year and set the most improved record?
Oh, no.
Okay.
They don't go that high, but it's going to be a massive turnaround.
No doubt.
And if you and I had to put money on someone that could get him there, it'd be difficult to bet against Brendan Burke given what he's brought in so far.
I'm telling you. So he goes for a year to Houston and then lands there after being in Colorado Springs before
goes to Houston, wins an Open Cup. Then he's going to come back and win the East. Why not?
Exactly. Speaking of Houston, Juan Guerra just goes and fills that slot. Simple as ever. Danny Stone elevated. Conversely, Indy also made a pretty shocking to the outside, I think. Mark Lowry out. Sean McCauley, who was previously the interim at Minnesota United, in. Either of those moves genuinely, truly shock you when they happened?
No, not whatsoever. Was surprised that, well, hang on. Back up for a second. I thought Lowry was going to leave last year.
Yep.
Given everything that we heard. When he stayed, finished the season, the chatter had kind of subsided. So I am a bit surprised that we've talked about
timing.
of the timing of it. Not surprised at the hiring of Sean McCauley. This guy's pedigree. Understand this is a Manchester United youth player that came up with Gary Neville and David Beckham and that whole group, Paul Scholes. His pro career kind of bounced around in the lower leagues in England, but he's been with Minnesota United for the last year. They had a pretty decent basis of like what they were trying to do there. Not necessarily sure Sean McCauley agreed with that vision. Let's put it that way. But smart footballing mind, and Indy's got the budget for you to chase players, man.
All right, Dev, 5 other openings to mention here. Danny DiCio replaces Trevor James. Trevor had been working for months to find his guy. He got him. Trevor remains as the sporting director in Miami. Lewis Neal was the interim, replacing Anthony Pulis. He's out. Antonio Nocerino, comes in. Milan, Orlando City. A whole boatload of Italians involved in that organization again. Tulsa, Mario Sanchez is in, replaces Blair Gavin. Blair rejoins Caleb, but also club president Sam Dorr goes to the league office now. So it's the Louisville Brain Trust of Sanchez and Spencer taking over Tulsa. Dennis Sanchez replaces Isidro Sanchez. No relation between any of them. Dennis previously at Sacramento, and then Tampa Bay. New blood, another Scotsman. Robbie Nielsen is in, replaces ultimately Neil Collins, who left midseason. Is doing awesome things over in Europe. Something to add on any of the 5?
I would just say, to me, the biggest question mark is actually going to be Robbie Nielsen and the Tampa Bay Rowdies. That team, still very talented, still a massive threat, not just in the Eastern Conference, but in the USL Championship overall. But when you come in, you got a bunch of thoroughbreds, not a lot of experience at all in this league. Does that necessarily translate to results? I don't know. We certainly don't know if it does right away.
All right, when we come back, we'll take a look at the Dream 5-a-sides. This is something that the league office had asked some league legends to give their best 5. We'll walk through ours, or at least whether we think, any of these teams could actually win the 5-a-side championship. It's all coming up next here on USL All Access. Welcome back to USL All Access. Happy Tuesday night. Miss any part of the show, it's on the SiriusXM app, also on the USL YouTube page. Shortly after we're done here. With Dev, Mike. Dev, what's the logo on the hat?
You like the new hat? This is my new favorite hat. This is from a local establishment called Hopportunities. That's a hop, like from a beer.
I like that.
I just like it because the hat itself is so comfortable, and it fits nice. It's a flat brim, but it's not very high. The crown is short. Okay. The reign's supreme, much like these 5-a-sides we're about to talk about.
All right, so give Duddy a lot of credit. He spent a lot of time appealing to some league legends. 5 league legends, Dream 5-a-side. One that you played with or against, goalkeeper, defender, 3 field players, midfielders or forwards, and a sub. Defenders are their own category. Sorry, Dev. Not truly field players. You guys are maniacs.
You're welcome.
Rodrigo Lopez went with Miguel Gallardo, played with him in Orlando. Mickey Daly, Diego Luna, Richie Ryan, Haji Berry, and brought Molino off the bench.
Solid squad.
Forrest Lasso, Matt Pickens was his goalkeeper. Justin Hoyt, Cincinnati fame. Richie Ryan, Cincinnati fame. Corbin Bones, Cincinnati fame. Wait a minute. Danny Koenig, and off the bench, Emmanuel Ledesma.
Off the bench.
King Kenny, Kennardo Forbes. Kyle Morton was his goalkeeper, was with him in Pittsburgh. How about this for a defender? Vasilios Apostolopoulos. He scored the game-winning goal against Oklahoma City in the semifinal in 2015, and then missed the final, and I never got to say his name on a broadcast before he left. Danny Griffin, Robbie Mertz, Albert Dequal, all Pittsburgh guys. Brought Nico Brett off the bench. Enzo Martinez, Van Okel, Kavita was his defender, his brother Alex. June Marquez Davidson's an interesting pick. Enzo is starting for Enzo. Shocker. And Joel Johnson coming off the bench. Alex Timbakis was the 5th. chose himself as the goalkeeper. Seymour, Chris Wehan, Joe Cole, Haji Berry. They brought Christian Nava off the bench. We weren't asked, but Dev, I want you to pick a winner. You've got all those teams. I'm going to give one too. Cody Lorendi is my goalie.
Okay.
That's easy. He's one of our guys. Mitch Tainer is my starting center back.
Okay.
And right back and left back. That's how it goes. Salman Asante, Bernardo Forbes, 2017 era, Russell Cicerone, and then because I have to play with someone, Corey Herzog, former broadcast partner, league legend. So there you go.
That's
Dev,
a solid team.
Pick a team.
I'm taking Forrest's team. Matt Pickens, Justin Hoyt, Richie Ryan, Corbin Bone, Danny Koenig. Personal relationships with a couple of those guys. Played against one of them. Stacked beyond belief. The fact that Manu Ledesma is coming off the bench for Forrest Lasso. I mean, whew. What was his 2018 year? Do you recall?
Nuts.
Let me guess. I'm going to do it off the top of my head. I'm going to
like
say
18 and 8.
I think he had no. He did the double. I think it was like 18 and 14.
And that's on the Cincinnati team that went to the Open Cup semis. I mean, basically got them to MLS. I think we can all agree with that. That we're probably not talking about
16 and 16.
Wow,
16 goals and at that point, a new league record of 16 assists.
All right. Dev, mailbag is out this week, regrettably. Comes back next week, however. Send questions at Devon Kerr 9 at Mike Watts on air. Dev, did you learn anything this week or the off season for that matter?
I didn't have an off season. My hard to believe children. Yeah, someone put me in charge of offspring. All three of them didn't really let me have an off season. I learned that against all odds, bad things still do happen. And I reference that in terms of the Open Cup. Everybody needs to get their you-know-what together. And I get it. It's about money. That's what it's always about in every walk of life. I wish people would focus on the greater good of this game because I want this tournament to survive. It means so much for so many different organizations, not just first and second and third divisions and the semi-pros and the amateurs, the academy players, the youngsters. It just means so much. We have to find a way to keep this thing going.
All right. Well put. I learned it's much better to have a home with your wife than to sort of be in between multiple places, and we've got it. And it's got wood paneling, and I love it.
What's that bottle of wine corked on the back?
That came from Caves in Paris. True story. Anywho, also that Devon turned 40 and getting to see everyone come around and celebrate him was a lot of fun down in South Florida, and I don't remember most of that night. For Devon and Emmett, and of course Amanda Vandervort, our guest here week one, Mike Watts. Dev, say goodbye to the people.
Goodbye to the people.
Adios.
This is USL All Access. If you missed any portion of the program, listen back anytime on the SXM app.